Welcome to the channel, welcome to the channel, welcome to the channel, yeah.
Hi. Greetings and salutations, my lovelies. I am in my bedroom. It's late at night because I just got my children to bed and I don't have any free time anymore because it's summer and they're always with me. um, so I am here to do a kind of monthly wrap up, just talk about books I've been reading, uh, and how my June went. I will say I read like 17 books, so I'm probably going to do what I call one sentence reviews, one word reviews. Let's go one word reviews, just so we're not here for an hour because I'm tired. The circles, I'm tired. Um, so I have like 6 more days left in June, but I'm really slumpy. So I highly doubt I'm going to get anything else finished because I'm too tired. So I participated in the Queer Lit Readathon. I'm really not in the mood to like give a breakdown of every single part, what book I read for what prompt. I'm just not going to do it. Um, but let's just kind of get to it. I read 17 books, 3,830 pages. 14 out of 17 of those books were LGBTQ plus. And then 7 out of 17 were written by a person of color. Those are the only stats I really paid attention to because I wanted to make sure for the Queer Lit Readathon I was reading like diversely as well, not just a certain, I wanted to make sure I heard queer people of color as well, their stories. And I know I said I was slumpy and I said, oh, I read 17 books, but y'all, a lot of these books, some of these books were children's books, some of these books were graphic novels, and I can finish those like that. Because realistically, man, I was just trying to get a blackout on the Queer Lit Readathon. Um, I didn't because I couldn't get the group read, and I one of the prompts was 1990s, and man, June was the queen of me starting a whole bunch of books and not being able to finish them. Like I get 20% in and just whatever. I was like, okay, this is not holding my attention. Um, I think it's more a me problem because the world's on fire, not necessarily a book's problem. If I finished a book, it was really that meant it held my interest in some way, but like I was DNFing, like bam, 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 just blowing everybody out of the water. Like I just did not care. And since reading is my hobby, sometimes I just read to read. I don't really read for enjoyment, I know, or retention or any of that. I'm just reading to read, and then I'm like, okay, I don't want to read this anymore, and I just go to something else because it's a low key obsession. But anyway, first book, but not too bold. This was a novella about a spider lady. Um, I wrote beautifully terrifying. A gentleman's gentleman. Um, Fine. Just fine. You had me at happy hour. I wanted to DNF this, but I kept it for the readathon. It was a romance. It was okay. There was a lot of like miscommunication I just didn't like, so whatever. Next is a graphic novel called Paper Planes, which everybody and their mom I've seen a lot of people talk about it. It was good non-binary rep, but mid. Teenagers doing stupid shit, whatever. I read a couple of manga. Okay, no, so not 17 books, 18. 18. And 15 out of 18 gay, whatever. Because I read Would You Like to Be a Family? Um, Wholesome. It's a manga. And then I read Fangs, not wholesome. Also a manga, but it was kind of confusing. Vampires, smut. It was confusing. Not my favorite. I will not be continuing. I read another book called Bears and Bakeries. Um, Speechless for this book. For me, the writing was weird. The content was also weird. Like, I'm all for a good smutty book, but some of these scenes were just not for me. Not for me. um, I I was just super slumpy because everything I was reading was just like bleh. So I reread one of my favorite books, and it's called Psycho. It's a part of the Necessary Evils books by Onley James. Basically, kind of serial killers. Dexter. It's basically gay Dexter. But a whole family of Dexters, and they're all gay, and they all fall in love, sort of, but they're all like psycho, so they can't like fall in love, but like whatever. It's one of my favorite series. The main character in this book is autistic and falls in love with a psychic. Whatever. It's great. I read a couple of picture books. Julian is a Mermaid. Very sweet. And the other one was Out of the Blue. Also very sweet, but mid, just by. I read a couple of graphic novels. I read Jupiter Nettle and the Seven Schools of Magic. This was actually really cute. I got it for my daughter. She didn't like it, but I did. It had cool world, lovely art, and a wonderful story. Then I read another one called Frizzy, and this was basically about a young girl dealing with her natural hair. I cried, y'all. It was really good. Just talking about loving yourself and accepting yourself for who you are and your hair, how it grows out of your head. And I think every black woman can understand the relationship to hair is a big thing. Then for Juneteenth, I read Kindred. That was a reread by Octavia Butler. It's not my favorite by her, but it's still good. I've read it a couple times. I annotate every time. It's a good book to kind of find new things every time you read it. So it ticked all my boxes. And then I just kind of kept it black. Okay. So I listened to on audio Selected Works by Audre Lorde. This is a nonfiction. It was just a whole bunch of essays and poems about, you know, being a black lesbian. Audre Lorde was, in that time of where being a lesbian was illegal. She was married to a gay man, and they had kids, because you had to keep up the farce back in the day. But it talks about identity and sexuality and blackness. Really great stuff. I had never read anything by Audre Lorde before, and I loved it. I'm probably going to try to read other stuff. But definitely, if you are black and queer, definitely, or if you're, read it. Everybody should read it, but especially if you're black and queer, it definitely gets you to think and see yourself in a different way, and it's almost like a letter from a queer elder. So um, I read two Akwaeke Emezi books. I read Pet, which is a young adult book about a trans girl who summons a literal monster, and they go hunting bad guys in this like utopian world that's supposed to be, perfect without uh, bad stuff. And as we know, things happen behind closed doors. I wrote for this one Perfection. It was great. I loved it. There was no notes. Little Rot. I wrote, what in the Jerry Springer did I just read? I couldn't put that book down. That book was messy, gross, like a car accident. You just can't look away from it. It was disturbing. That book was disturbing, but I just had to like know what happened. But that book is a trigger warning. Little Rot is just a walking trigger warning. Um, I did read a whole bunch of reviews about this one, and a lot of people said like, um, what was the purpose of this? Fans of Emezi, will just read whatever they write, and it doesn't have to be good. It's just trash. It's very divisive. But I do think like if I watched an interview of them, and they actually said that like nothing they produce now is just for the sake of it. They literally write to make money. Um, and I think that's a whole other discussion about, art and capitalism and commodification and stuff like that. Like, when you are just sitting in your house and you have a story to tell or any kind of art and you're just doing it for yourself, when it becomes your job and the way you eat and pay your bills, is that art still art? Um, or are you just, you know, making stuff in order for it to be consumed? But that's a whole nother that's a whole nother thing. So I can't say I liked it because it's so disturbing, but it was an experience. Okay. Um, I read another graphic novel, Atana and the Jade Mermaid. It was just a nice continuation of a graphic novel series that I started for the when last month in the Asian Readathon. It's set in a world that has no men in it. It's literally all non-binary and ladies, non-binary people and ladies. So it wasn't like bam, pow in your face queer. It was just this is the world. Without any, nobody really explains it. Nobody cares. It just is. It just is. And there's a beauty to that type of kind of gay stories that it's I love stories that are central in their gayness and they talk about being gay and it's the center of the book. But sometimes it's okay to have a book where everybody's gay, but we don't have to sit around and talk about how much we're gay. Like you're just doing regular other stuff. You just so happen to be gay. Like it's just normalized. So that's also nice. Um, and then last but not least is my favorite book of the month, and that was Darius the Great Deserves Better. Um, this was a second book to a book I read during the Asian Readathon again, but man, Adib Karam has become one of my favorite upcoming in my top authors. This was just as good as the first one. Um, it was nice to return to the same world with the same characters and kind of catch up with same characters, maybe a year older. and dealing with certain things. I will say YA, YA anything, unless it's like fantasy, so it's already kind of in a different world that doesn't really focus on like coming of age stuff. I'm almost 40, and reading YA and reading coming of age books is hard for me because I'm like not in that place anymore. Um, and it's not that I can't relate to it. I can. It's just not something I want to read right now. And like I said, unless it's like hardcore fantasy or horror, um, it's just not um, where I'm at. Um, like I said, unless it's fantasy or horror or some kind of magical element, I can't just do like, I'm 15 and going through puberty. Like, I just can't do it. There has to be something else that, like, gets me into the story. And with Darius, The Great Deserves Better, it is very much like, oh, I'm just going through puberty, trying to figure out my sexuality, trying to grow up. But the writing is so good, and the character has depression. And as a sad, sad girl, it just got me. So, but those were the books that I read. I know I didn't keep a lot of my commentary to one word or one sentence, but whatever. Um, I am kind of maybe gonna slow it down. Gotta slow it down. Um, Coming up because I'm doing July Noir, which is like a spin-off of Blackoween, a challenge by a readathon, I should say, by Lock Bree over at Locked Booktition. And I really want to have energy to do that, and not DNF everything. And that's happening like the last like 2 weeks of July. So I'm kind of gonna slow down, not kind of force myself to finish a book in a day because, I don't have to. It's not a race. It's not anything. So the first 2 weeks of July, I'm just gonna chill, and then we're gonna do July Noir at in the middle to end of July. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Bye.